32-year-old man abruptly bolts upright in bed. It is exactly 2 a.m. Startled by the sudden movement, his wife wakes up, looks at him, and asks anxiously, "What happened? Are you okay?" But he cannot answer. His throat is completely parched, bone dry. Words refuse to form. He can only gasp for air, chest heaving, taking deep, desperate breath. Just moments before this, they had been intimate. Their bodies had fully connected. Yet, right after, his mind drifted into a dark, bottomless abyss. A sickening thought consumed him. He was planning to murder his wife. He wanted to move his hands to choke her, but his body was paralyzed. His limbs refused to move. To understand why his mind is this twisted, you have to look into his past. His name is Kiran. He belongs to Coimbatore, Tamil Nadu. Death touched his life early. He lost his mother when he was just a child. From that day on, the concept of love completely vanished from his world. He became a recluse, rotting away inside his own home. His father was a man of no morals, openly roaming around with a woman he hadn't married. Witnessing this daily, Kiran grew to despise his own home. He hated his life. To escape, he would arrive at school long before the gates officially opened, just to avoid being at home. He didn't play with anyone. Instead, he sat alone inside the empty classroom, daydreaming with his eyes wide open. He would watch a senior boy who was a brilliant kabaddi player. Kiran fantasized about defeating him, imagining the entire school cheering and praising his name. But in reality, no one ever picked Kiran for kabaddi because he didn't know how to play. To hide his incompetence and protect his fragile ego, he started weaving a web of lies to maintain a false image. Deep inside him, a paralyzing fear took root, the fear of failure. He believed that if he tried something and failed, the world would forever brand him a failure, so he decided it was better never to try at all. Years passed in this stagnant state until he had to change schools. In the 5th grade, he was enrolled in a strict private school. Having only gone to government schools, he felt completely out of his depth. He had no friends, no connections, and the sheer anxiety of the new environment literally gave him an upset stomach on day one. The students there were brilliant, and the discipline was brutal. The English teacher was notorious for placing pens or pencils between students' fingers and squeezing them as punishment. Kiran did everything to stay under the radar. The school had a strict seating rule. A bench of 4 had to alternate between boys and girls to keep them from talking and creating a ruckus. Kiran dreaded the weekly bench rotation because the second bench was right under the teacher's nose. But that second bench was occupied by Priyanka, the fierce class leader who wasn't afraid to argue even with the teachers. Because Kiran was struggling with English, the principal specifically ordered him to sit next to Priyanka so she could help him improve. During tests, Priyanka would secretly help him. She was mischievous, highly talented, and completely unaware that Kiran had fallen desperately, obsessively in love with her. He loved her with a silent madness. He didn't have the courage to ever utter a word to her, but whenever he looked at the black mole on her lips, his heart would race violently. If she smiled, his chest would throb. They reached the 7th grade, which was the final year at that school. The final exams were tomorrow. According to the roll numbers, Kiran was assigned a seat next to the wall. His plan was simple: copy from his smart friend, pass the exam, and score high marks. To execute this, he volunteered to help the teacher arrange the extra desks and stick the roll numbers on the walls. But a conflict arose. His friend warned him, "Don't put a desk here. If you do, I'll be forced to sit in the front row without a proper desk to lean on, and we won't be able to cheat." Ignoring the warning, Kiran threw a tantrum, arranged the desks his way, and went home. The next morning, Kiran arrived to find his desk exactly where he wanted it, right next to his topper friend. But sitting right beside the friend he had argued with was Priyanka. The friend had spilled everything to her. Priyanka turned around and locked eyes with Kiran, giving him a cold, piercing death stare. That look shattered him. Everything Kiran had actually studied, the 1-mark questions, 2-mark answers, poems, and letter formats, vanished from his mind. He was paralyzed. Ultimately, he managed to write the exam only through the desperate help of his friend and blatant copying. On the day the results were announced, Priyanka walked away without even acknowledging him or shaking his hand. Kiran was devastated. He cried bitterly through the night. That night, he masturbated to the thought of Priyanka for the very last time. Every week prior, he had fantasized about a life with her, imagining stories of them as lovers or getting married. But that night, It all ended. From that day until the day of his arranged marriage, Kiran never looked at or loved another woman. But on this specific night, after waking up gasping at 2 a.m., something snapped inside him. He abandoned his wife, left Bengaluru, and set off on a frantic, obsessive manhunt to find Priyanka. His only goal was to find her, kiss her aggressively, and feel that mole on her lip with his tongue. As he traveled toward his hometown, he frantically searched for her on Instagram and Facebook, but found absolutely nothing. Arriving at her old house, his rigorous questioning revealed a shocking truth. Priyanka had eloped with someone years ago and abandoned her family. The news sent Kiran into a state of manic aggression. Unable to handle the tension, he grabbed a nearby axe and brutally decapitated a goat right then and there. The furious villagers cornered him and beat him black and blue. After bribing them with cash to escape, he tracked down Priyanka's old friends. They gave him a horrifying update. Priyanka was in Maharashtra. Her husband and 5 to 6 of his friends had gang-raped her, and her husband was now locked up in jail. Fueled by a psychotic rage, Kiran drove straight to the police station in Maharashtra. He broke inside, attempted to murder her husband right in the cell, and threatened him, demanding he sign divorce papers. Terrified for his life, the husband agreed, saying, "Just get me the divorce papers first." Kiran then went to find Priyanka. He found her admitted to a mental asylum in Thane, Maharashtra. She was completely broken, a mere shadow of her former self. The moment he saw her, his hands began to tremble, and a cold sweat broke out over his body. Her face was completely disfigured from severe burns. She couldn't even remember her own name. Horrified and disgusted, Kiran fled the asylum. He went to the railway station to catch a train back home. But on the platform, he spotted a woman who looked exactly like the old Priyanka. Blinded by obsession, he followed her through the streets of Maharashtra, tailing her all the way into a notorious red light area. Sensing him following her, the woman turned around, called him inside, and blindly quoted her hourly rate for sex. Kiran agreed instantly. They went into the room. Finally, Kiran got what he wanted. He licked the mole on her lip and had intense, unprotected sex with her. Afterward, when he asked for her name, she refused to speak. He asked for her address so he could return the next day, and she finally muttered, "Selvi." Determined to uncover the truth, Kiran booked a room in a nearby hotel. The next day, he met with the local pimp, the head of the brothel. Kiran paid for premium services, supplied the pimp with an endless flow of alcohol, and got him heavily drunk. Kiran asked him, "I know about Selvi. Can you tell me what her real story is?" Under the heavy influence of alcohol, the pimp spilled the dark truth. Hearing the shocking revelation, Kiran excused himself to the bathroom. The psychological shock was so intense it manifested physically. He noticed he was bleeding heavily from his rectum. He washed himself, completely numb, walked out, and caught the first train back to Bengaluru. His mind was made up. He was going to murder his wife. The woman he slept with was the real Priyanka. She was a master manipulator. She had been running a prostitution ring, using her husband's friends to generate massive amounts of money through affairs. When her husband caught her red-handed, Priyanka pulled off a massive stunt, framed them all for gang rape, and sent them to jail. To erase her identity completely, she had lured an innocent girl, trapped her in a room, and triggered a massive gas cylinder blast to burn the girl's face beyond recognition, intending to pass the corpse off as her own. But the unfortunate girl survived, though she lost her sanity. Priyanka modified her identity, dumped the brain-damaged girl into the Thane mental asylum under her name, and took on the alias Selvi to run the red light district. However, her husband still possessed her original, unburned photos for the divorce proceedings, which he had shown to Kiran during the cell assault. That was how Kiran connected the dots. Kiran rushed back to the red light area to confront her, but he was too late. The police had raided the district. During the chaos, it was revealed that Selvi wasn't just a worker. She was the absolute kingpin, the owner of the entire red light operation, and she had already escaped through a pre-planned route. Before Kiran could even relay this twisted web to the authorities, the Karnataka police intercepted him. He was arrested and thrown deep into a lockup on charges of the attempted murder of his wife after his plan to leak the household gas line was discovered. Kiran lost everything. He never got his ultimate prize. Now, sitting in the dark, cold cell, every single night brings the same haunting nightmare, the dream of licking that forbidden mole. but the dream always ends abruptly, waking him up like a sharp slap to the face with a shoe. And to this day, no one knows whose tongue is actually caressing Priyanka's mole out there in the dark.